Hi guys. So it's been like roughly 25,000 years since I last did a video, and I'm trying to get back into the swing of things. So I decided to pick back up where I left off, which I think was a book review for Wizard's First Rule by Terry Goodkind. Looking like, not looking good. Anyway, I decided to do a really easy video today to start me back into, video making. And I'm going to do my 5 favorite classics. And I'm going to do like little sum-ups of how I feel about the book and why it's my favorite. So I'm just going to get right into it because I feel like that's the best, way for me to do things today. Oh, also, look at that face. Looking good. Okay, so we're going to start off with my number 1 favorite, which is Jane Eyre. And this story is just flipping beautiful and really realistic, despite the fact that he has like a crazy wife living in his attic. Spoiler alert. Probably should have said that beforehand. But anyway, this edition also is like the coolest thing I've ever purchased. I found it at a flea market, but like, look at this. Look, not that. That's all irrelevant. Well, not irrelevant. I mean, that's the story. But like, really? Come on. Freaking. It has like full color illustrations. Like, look how cool those are. I hope it's focusing. And anyway, this is just such a beautiful story, and it has a really, really strong female voice, and she doesn't take crap from people, and it's so good. And if you haven't read Jane Eyre, you really, really should. Please, for the love of all that is holy, don't watch the movies and the television adaptations and be like judging the story based on that, because I'm gonna be honest with you, I have yet to find one that's like true to the book and to the voice of the characters. I do like the Timothy Dalton adaptation the best, but even that one has its moments where I kind of sat back and I was like, homie, who wrote this script? Moving right along to the next one before I put my foot in my mouth anymore. My next favorite, ooh, you got to see the little top there. My next favorite in the list of classics is The Secret Garden. And this is one of like the most magical books I ever read as a child. And I don't mean like fairies are flying around and stuff, but you read this book and it just has like this like hint of magic. Like, it's such a sweet story, and the ending makes me cry no matter how many times I read it. It's such a sweet story. I always recommend this to kids at work because I work at a bookstore. So I always recommend this, and although this next book isn't on my list, A Little Princess, that's another one I always recommend to kids because and they're both actually by Francis, always say this wrong, Hodgson Burnett. Such a sweet story, and a great story about finding a family and finding friends and finding yourself. So always recommend The Secret Garden. Get you a little closer up of that reverse title. Hold this bad boy up to a mirror. I forgot I have this on reverse, so this is gonna be fun. Anyway, my next favorite, and this one I debated on putting on the classics list just because the story really, in retrospect, isn't that old. Like, let me see if I can find a copyright date. Yeah, 1962. So, I mean, it's really not old by any means, but it's on my list anyway, which is A Wrinkle in Time. And again, hold this bad boy up to a mirror. This is by Madeleine L'Engle. L'Engle? I don't speak foreign languages. Well, I don't speak languages outside of English. Anyway, this, my mother actually made me read when I was like 8. So, I mean, half of this went over my head when I was 8, but really, really good story. And a lot of people, I don't know, a lot of people I've told to read this book didn't like it. I can't for the life of me figure out why, because this story is so flipping good. And it's actually part of a quartet. There's 4 in the immediate, like, family that's involved with this series. And then there's actually other books outside that either about kind of distant relatives or just people who weren't immediately involved with this family. But it's such a good story. Like, I mean, the first sentence drew me in as a kid. Because let me see here. It was a dark and stormy night. So, for whatever odd reason, such a stereotypical beginning to a story. But in reality, I don't think I've ever read any other book that starts off, it was a dark and stormy night. So, I don't know. Maybe it came from this. I don't know. I'm not interested in looking up the origins of It Was a Dark and Stormy Night. But if you like books about families, more specifically siblings, and fighting, you know, evil and, not even evil, but just fighting for good, I guess I should have said. Fighting for good and protecting your siblings and magic and sci-fi, really. Magic and sci-fi. Then this is the book for you. This is such a fantastic story. Yeah, and it's a Newbery Award winner, so do yourself a favor, homie G, and read this book, yo. I should stop saying things like that, but I'm not gonna. So this next book, I'm trying to get the sticker off the cover here, because I didn't realize I left it on. I bought this book a while ago from work. But, there we go. Anne of Green Gables. I am so sorry that you have to, like, interpret this backward language. But, again, another book with a really strong female voice. I was emotionally invested so hardcore that I started wearing my hair in double braids. And a lot of the reason why I like to read and I like to write actually comes from Anne of Green Gables. Anne herself is a writer and a reader and a dreamer. And I think out of any fictional character I've ever come across in my entire life, Anne is the one I can relate to the most. We think a lot alike, me and Anne. Or Anne and I. We think a lot alike. Anne and I. I call myself a writer. Like, that's embarrassing. But really read this book. And recently, there's been like one really prominent adaptation. It was a television adaptation. And recently, the actor that plays Gilbert in the series passed away. So I was really sad. So this is actually on my to be reread pile right now because it's fresh in my mind because of that, you know, recent incident. But such a good book. Again, I feel like maybe that's just like a theme with classics. What am I doing? But again, this really has a strong, like, familial tone. Like, it's really about a girl finding her family and finding herself and friends. And if you've never read Anne of Green Gables, again, like, all these are 5 out of, or I guess I should say like 105 out of 10 stars, because these are all just fantastic stories. And I have like a little mix in here. I mean, I've got my realistic fiction, and I've got, you know, Wrinkle in Time was pretty magical. But I'll put this in the pile here. Definitely read Anne of Green Gables. And my last one, I don't actually have a physical copy of, so it's going to be on my Nook. Come on. Freaking, there we go. Okay, so The Time Machine. I don't even, again, it's all backwards and gross. I'm going to work on that for the next video, but The Time Machine is so good. it was one of my first bouts with sci-fi as far as reading goes. I mean, as a kid, I grew up watching Star Trek and Star Wars and Dune and all that kind of stuff with my family, but first time I ever read sci-fi was The Time Machine. And freaking good lord, it's such a good story. I don't know how to even explain this one without giving it plot stuff away. I mean, it's called The Time Machine, so, I mean, pretty sure you can gather that it's about time travel. But it's about the implications of time travel and what traveling back and forth can affect and change, and how it changes you and how you have to adapt. And it's really freaking good. That's like the most vague description I can give of my feelings of it, but just read it. If you have any interest at all in science fiction, I definitely recommend The Time Machine. And there was a pretty good, I liked it, but it definitely strays from the book a lot. But there was a edition they did, I want to say it was like early 2000s or mid 2000s maybe. I don't even remember who was in it, but they did a version of The Time Machine, and it was really good, but again, it's very different from the book. So if you're going to read the book, or rather if you're going to watch the movie and think you're watching the book, you're not. It's very different. So that's it for today's video. I did my top 5. I feel like I want to do another one because this one was a lot shorter than I thought it would be. But I don't know. I think I did okay. I think for having not made a video, that's the word, for having not made a video in like, pretty sure it's been a year, I think I did alright. I don't know, you'd have to tell me. Subscribe below if you want more of my horrifying words and clearly well thought out words, because this is me having given this a lot of thought. A lot. The next video I was going to do, give you a little heads up as to what I'm reading right now, and give you a little glimpse of my to-be-read shelf pile thing I've got going on right now. I need to remember to keep looking in the camera. It's really hard to remember to do that. I don't know why. I'm doing it again. So I will have a new video prepared, hopefully this time next week. Thursdays are pretty much my days off. Sometimes I work them, but for the most part I don't. So I'm going to try to get a new video out every Thursday. I've got a couple collabs planned, believe it or not. I know people. I have friends. So we're going to do those coming up soon on my channel. I'm going to be delving into some tags. And anyway, I hope you enjoyed me rambling about classics and semi-classics for like 15 minutes. Again, if you did like it, subscribe. I don't have a catchy outro yet because I haven't done this in a really long time. But yeah, so subscribe, leave a like, leave a comment. Let's be BFFs for life, yo. That won't be the catchphrase.